Well, it certainly makes you skittish in holding any stock when you find that the government's getting involved in some sort of investigation. But on the surface of it, it seems like such a broad announcement and a broad categorization of companies, it's hard to really see what they're going after. At the end of the day, most antitrust cases focus on consumer harm, and most of these companies are delivering either free services or making goods cheaper to consumers. So this may be a long battle for the Justice Department as they get into this.
So this is an interesting point, because when we talk about antitrust concerns, these are business issues that we are dealing with. They are about monopolistic power abusing other smaller competitors. But you get the sense that this whole story is centering more on some of these social or political impacts or repercussions that big tech faces, as opposed to straight monopolistic issues. Do you get a sense that that's the case here? It's not just about antitrust, but about things like data privacy and conservative censorship and that sort of thing?
Well, certainly. And I think it's interesting that it's concurrent with what's going on the Hill today, as well as they're really focusing on the data privacy regulations and the populist message around the world that somebody wants government to step in and either regulate or perhaps not just regulate but prosecute abuses of that digital currency, call it. That's why it is odd to hear Apple looped into this mix, because they really don't provide those services the way perhaps a Google and a Facebook do. So it's going to be an interesting case, and it does sound a little bit more political than economic at this point.
All right, so I want to pivot a little bit away from big technology, because the other big story that we will have later on this morning has to do with Boeing. It's a massive company, the biggest weighting in the Dow. Its issues right now are having wide repercussions. You are a shareholder of Boeing. What will you be looking for or listening for out of Boeing's results?
Well, certainly out of the results, we're going to be listening for cash flow across all of their businesses. You know, there are very few businesses where it's not only that you sell a product, and if your product has a problem, you might sell fewer of them, or in this case, have it held up by the FAA, but you have to actually pay your customers for not flying the plane. So the risk to Boeing is somewhat open-ended until we get closure on the 737 MAX issue. But what we really need to hear is, how do the other businesses that Boeing have contribute to the cash flow in order to support development of future aircraft programs and the rest of their business while we wait for the 737 MAX to fly again and see that earnings, get back into the high teens.
Are you holding your position? Are you adding to Boeing on this weakness that we've seen in shares over the course of the past few weeks?
Well, that's been the hard part about Boeing this year. It's been a long-term holding, so over the past, maybe half a dozen years, we've trimmed Boeing back many times. And I think it's always important for investors to know that they should continue to trim positions whether they are still constructive on the name. We would continue to hold Boeing. If we had new money come in, we would add Boeing to their portfolio. But we're going to wait and see how the 737 MAX issue plays out before we would increase our position size in the stock.